Okay, welcome to Mining Now. We have two companies being featured today, two return guests that have been on Mining Now multiple times, but their first time on the show together. So it's going to be lots of fun. I get to ask all types of questions from different angles. It always makes the show interesting. So we've got Mike Campigotto. He is the president at Safesight. You've probably seen Mike on the show a couple times, and Paul has been on the show a couple times as well. Paul Howarth, he is the Senior Director of Advanced Services at Rogers Communications. Rogers facilitated us doing our first underground episode, so that was great. They're both on the show. Gentlemen, welcome to Mining Now.
Good morning.
It's great to be here.
So let's just kick off with Mike, can you just give us a snapshot of Safesight, just for anybody who hasn't seen the other episodes?
Sure. So Safesight's a company that has really turned its focus to innovation in the area of collecting high-risk, impossible data in the areas of mine rescue, shaft measurement, 3D mapping underground, and Alamac raised mining development. So we have a collection of tools that will collect the data needed for everything from operational measurements to digital twin development without in creating any risk to workers or responders in the event of an emergency.
I'm just going to say, and you make beautiful products too. The things, and because you said
They
something
gotta be
on our first episode, and
Yes.
I literally will be walking and it'll just pop into my head. You said, I think it was your father or grandfather said, "I have to eat with my eyes first."
Sure, yeah. He used to say the
Totally.
eyes needs their share before he had a meal. So if you cook something tasteful and it looked terrible, he was like, you failed. My eyes don't like this. Yeah, so in technology, we want to there needs to be some elegance to the solution.
Yeah, and it's you used that word before too, is elegance.
Yeah,
I actually went and repeated that. Once you said it, I went and repeated it to my business partner, and we've slowly, it takes time, but we've slowly started to move in those directions of just making things look a little prettier. I'm from the country, it's a little crash and bang. So I'm learning.
Yeah.
Paul, little background on a lot of people here in Canada will know Rogers. We have viewers all around the world. Just a quick snapshot of Rogers, and specifically in this sector that you focus on within mining.
Sure. At the highest level, Rogers is a communications company. We have both wireless and wireline across all of Canada. Very specifically for Mike, we provided the private wireless, both 4 and 5G infrastructure that's needed for his great looking solution.
Thanks, Paul.
I want to talk about, and I want to quickly for both your perspectives, the Norcat Center, because we did an episode, Paul. We did an episode underground at the Norcat Center. The views are still piling up from that one. And Mike, I know your company's been involved there, so maybe just same thing from both sides. What is your involvement with the Norcat Center?
Well, from our perspective, Norcat is the living laboratory that we need to innovate. I mean, it's difficult to. We have great partners in the sector, like Newmont, Vale, Glencore, etc. But to interrupt their operational areas for us to test out a new innovation, not very practical. Norcat is the living, breathing environment for us to validate our ideas. And I know in the sector they don't like to hear the word fail, but if you want to innovate, failure's on the journey. And so it's much easier to fail at Norcat repeatedly until you get it right. And so without them, I don't think we would be where we are.
Let's talk about our Heavy Industry World Tour, brought to you by Savannah Equipment, supplying mining equipment worldwide. And Corporate Traveler Canada, helping companies travel the globe simpler, faster, easier. We are heading to events across North America and Australia and filming episodes on location. Email us at info@crownsman.com to be part of Crownsman's Heavy Industry World Tour. MineTech helps mine sites like yours improve their safety, profitability, and compliance with world-class sound attenuation, water management, underground ventilation, and electrical solutions, enabling their customers to make and save millions of dollars through increased production, limited downtime, automation, and reduced energy consumption. Relied upon by more than 3,200 sites across 25 countries, their global team is standing by to offer end-to-end support and custom solutions for noisy mining machinery, toxic mine water of all qualities, metalliferous underground ventilation, and evolving electrical needs. Learn what MineTech could do for your site. Visit minetech.com/innovation. Your partner in technical services, AMPS, have been industry leaders in technical services optimization systems and training since 2011. With a team of over 70 resource professionals, AMPS provides world-class support to mining technical services teams globally. AMPS builds the capabilities within teams on site to maximize results and unlock value in mining operations. With significant experience in operational underground and open pit engineering and geology, AMPS is passionate about delivering value to their clients across an array of professional services. If you're looking to improve your mine site's technical services, visit advancedmps.com or email partner@advancedmps.com today.
How much is that center accelerating development? Like in comparison, if it took a year to develop something with failure and testing and getting it right, refining and making it elegant and all those things, you add in, if you take away that environment of the Norcat, how much more time would it add?
I think you'd be doubling or quadrupling your cycles. I mean, we can go to Norcat twice a week if we wanted to, if we had the capacity and the availability. So in the project that we did with Rogers, we were there every week, sometimes twice a week, to tune and on all of the partner sides. So if we had to schedule that at a real live site, just the complexities of finding the available area, I mean, you couldn't do it in the time frame that we did this project.
Has it been a good setup for Rogers, Paul, just being able to showcase just the capabilities of an underground communication system?
Absolutely. Like Mike touched on, you can't do this anywhere else.
Exactly.
We could test this in the parking lot, but it doesn't. You need to be in the environment, and so for us, Norcat is an innovation center. We have a number of innovation centers. We have one at UBC. We have Waterloo. We do some stuff in downtown Toronto. But Norcat in and of itself is a standalone innovation center. We have not just mining, by the way. We do work for heavy industrial. I would call it more broadly in that space, because you can't, like I say, you can't replicate what you can do there in a parking lot.
I agree.
You have to be at Norcat, and we learn so much, and it's why our partners are there as well. We also we have Dell there. We have Ericsson, two of our big partners that helped us with Mike's demo. Yeah,
I think that you could test all you want in any other scenario, but until it's underground, it isn't real. And Norcat provides you that ability to do it very quickly. And if it works at Norcat, it's probably going to work anywhere at any depth.
Yeah, we don't have a blast every 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
In our other labs,
that's helpful.
That test our mounting brackets and make sure everything is still standing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Being there, I really, I'd heard about it, but once I was actually there and got to walk through, Paul, with you and Sean, I realized, wow, like this is, to set that up. I mean, it was already a mine when it became Norcat. I don't even know what that would cost. You would never make that center, right? So it's just this incredible thing. I mean, globally, it's an incredible thing to have that center.
Absolutely.
But now let's combine. So where did Safesight and Rogers, where are they collaborating? What's the setup? Maybe Mike, I'll start with you.
Sure, yeah. So Safesight was one of about 29 companies that responded to a Rogers Norcat Innovation Challenge back in the late spring, early summer. And the challenge was really around leveraging 5G to demonstrate the power of that technology in the underground environment. And, after obviously the appropriate rounds of review, we were chosen as a successful company, and that's where our partnership really began.
I feel like, Mike, it's a little unfair because when you show up with that toy in the background.
Hey, wait a minute. That is not a toy. I've seen this thing drag a fire hose.
Yeah, exactly.
Underground.
Underestimate me all you want.
But everybody that sees it goes, I hope we get to work with that.
Yeah, the miners get a real kick out of it. Like right now, there's quite a few of these deployed for survey and data collection. And, you put the remote control in the hands of a couple of these young guys, and let me tell you, they got a big smile on their face.
Oh, I'm sure the older guys are pretty into it too. But of course, it's tongue in cheek. What is that unit behind you? Tell us about it.
So that is essentially the culmination of our collaboration with Rogers and Norcat and Dell, and it is essentially one of the very few and newest emergency response mine rescue digital innovations that exist right now in the sector. So if you step back and look at digital transformation over the last 5 or 6 years, and you do some research on where has the investment been in digital investment for digital transformation, you will find every process in mining listed there except mine rescue and emergency response. There has been very little investment in that area. And this we have a small toolkit we've developed. This is sort of one of the centerpieces of that digital technology. And what we were able to do with the Rogers-Dell collaboration is something that I have not seen, and I would say can't be done anywhere else in the world.
Actually, I just want to stay on that for
sure.
What is the main challenge? Why don't you think that's been invested? Just because it's been so much focused on like processing and things like that. Why has safety sort of been?
Yeah, I mean, and I'll throw some of this to Paul as well for his perspective on it. But I think that safety is a huge priority, but it has to be blended with operational efficiency and return on investment. And I think that there are some major wins in the digital transformation space in all of those other process areas. Everything from survey to mucking to remote vehicles from surface. Those all have massive ROI, and they also remove workers from underground risk environments. There's a safety component to them, and I just think that the emergency and rescue is something that specific discipline is at the bottom of the investment list. And I'm not sure exactly why that is in the industry, but there is no company that's focused on digital tools for emergency response and rescue. And that's what we've essentially turned our attention to with Rogers as our partner.
HF Sinclair, which includes the Petro-Canada Lubricants brand, is a proud sponsor of the show. Petro-Canada Lubricants products and services are proven to maximize equipment performance, productivity, and overall savings. From heavy-duty engine oils to hydraulic fluids, ATFs, gear oils, and greases, Petro-Canada Lubricants is committed to delivering innovative solutions that deliver value and keep businesses moving. They have dedicated technical expertise, knowledge, and know-how to help customers in the mining industry operate smoothly with improved equipment reliability and performance, and help support mining operations' ESG goals. Learn more at lubricants.petro-canada.com or contact them at 1-866-335-3369 to arrange a call with one of their technical experts. Hey mining enthusiasts, registration for CIM Connect 2024 Vancouver from May 12th to 15th is now open. Last year, this convention had over 6,800 participants from 60 countries, with 1,796 delegates, 702 booths, and 320 presentations. Secure your spot and register now at convention.cim.org. CIM Connect 2024, where quality and innovation define the experience.
So I just find it so interesting that it's such a big industry that there's still these little gaps that formulate. And obviously,
sure.
Safesight is plugging into that gap.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how big. It just those open up.
Yeah, and I would challenge anybody out there listening to this, but I think the last big investment in rescue technology was in respirators.
Right.
That's probably you find something that's 20 years ago. You find something that's earlier, please let me know. I'd love to know, but I can't find anything that's really been looking after these responders who are the people that run into danger when all of us are running away from it.
Yeah, Paul, I'm thinking from a sort of the Rogers perspective. I would just picture if you have, let's say, 29 companies put in front of you, when you see safety and communication mixing those together, it's kind of a match made in heaven, I would imagine, from a Rogers perspective.
Yeah, no, it's a perfect fit. And we're super proud to be part of what happened. The demo was absolutely outstanding. Great looking product, as you said. But to add to the sort of the discussion around what takes so long, Mike, I really got to hand it to you and your team. It takes people, right? Like it takes people that understand mine rescue, but they also have to understand digital transformation and how the technology can be applied. Yeah. That's a very unique thing, right? Like mine rescuers are a pretty small, unique breed of people.
Oh, yes.
So I would say kudos for being able to blend the two together, right? Because there's lots of technology out there. Yeah. We've had, you've got LiDAR, that's a great attachment on there. You've got other sensors on there. They've been around for like 20 years, like to your point.
Absolutely.
it takes the, innovation is combining those things with some industry specific knowledge.
Yeah, I agree.
That allows you to bring adoption, right? Like
Absolutely.
that was really the roadblock.
Absolutely,
I would say.
I agree, and I think that and anybody out there who is innovating, to Paul's point, you really have to walk in the shoes, or in our case, the boots of the folks you're trying to innovate for, because that's when you get the insight of, oh, I can bring an understanding of what you do plus a technological depth. You bring those two together, and then you can create something that maybe hasn't been thought of before.
Well, I think in mining, from the outside looking in an industry, we can see, how would I say it? We assume things are easier than they are. Like when I was out there with Rogers, with you, and you were, I heard you guys. I'm obviously not going to get into the details. I didn't understand half of it anyway. But you were talking about.
You got to go watch that podcast again. It was supposed to train you.
We'll put a link. But
Exactly.
you were talking through solutions while I was there. I was overhearing conversations about you trying to figure out different technologies that might be implemented. This is not easy. Mining is not easy. You can't just put a sensor on a remote control and it works. And so I'm curious, what was the actual demo that you did? What was the actual collaboration, and sort of what were the results of it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think that, and I really think this really creates the centerpiece for our conversation. So the thing that we did was we created the ability to respond to an emergency underground from surface. And that's not possible today. In today's world, if you were dispatching responders to find 3 missing workers in a potential fire environment, the only way you could gather any information about that would be from people who are running from the fire and asking them what happened. And that, from what the responders tell me, is unreliable detail, because people are not sort of fully aware of what's kind of the environment. It's flight or fight, kind of response. Or you send people into harm's way and ask them to figure out what's going on. And so there is no ability to deploy anything to assess the environment and determine any of the conditions on which they can plan a rescue or a response. And so what we did, we used the 5G environment and the Dell environment created at Norcat, and we were able to, essentially, using 5 responders that were provided by Newmont in PGM in Timmins, we were able to use them and simulate a response to an emergency where a fire was active, 3 workers were missing, their location was unknown, they just had not tagged out. So we knew they were in the mine somewhere, and those responders had to leverage the digital solutions we provided to respond to that emergency. And if you could imagine, in today's world, an emergency response creates an incident coordinator that sits on surface, and the only information that person has to coordinate the rescue or recovery is radio. So you send guys in and say, "I hope you don't die. Tell me what's going on."
Yeah.
And
it's they have to be very, very methodical today.
Oh yeah, it's
which
structured.
means the time is way, way, way stretched out.
Exactly.
And think about that miner trapped underground. And it's not so. I mean, fire is obviously dangerous. It's smoke underground.
Right. No visibility.
That's going to kill you. Something like this can just collapse that time. You can still be very methodical. You can still collect all the data you needed anyway, but you're not actually sending people into harm's way.
Yeah.
And you can collapse that time down dramatically where you find that first individual.
Yeah, 100%. And I think for people to visualize what we're talking about, imagine in today's scenario, you've got essentially an operator sitting in a room with other experts with a radio waiting for dialogue back and forth from people who are underground trying to figure things out, versus what we demonstrated was the equivalent of the Situation Room at the White House. So we had 4 screens broadcasting in real time, the body cam of the responders, a LiDAR 3D map of the environment that they were about to go into, a thermal camera sensing body heat and any hot spots underground, including tire pressure of vehicles that were heating up, as well as a high definition camera. That quad screen was displayed on a big jumbotron, so to speak, in the emergency room. And so the responders now were looking at all this data before they even went underground. They knew potentially where the hazards were, what the air quality was. We even found a couple of the missing workers prior to them actually leaving the safety of the surface. And so that information was then used to plan their entry into the site and their exit from the site, as well as they had a tablet and they were watching the Jumbotron as they deployed underground. So there is this, like when I say our focus is collecting data that's currently uncollectible, that collection of data was broadcast to Toronto, to Saudi Arabia, to North Bay, to Sudbury, to India, and across the US in real time. So imagine if you had an incident somewhere in the world and the subject matter experts were in Northern Ontario or Southern USA. Well, they could actively join the real activity, seeing real data in real time to provide the advice and direction they needed to safely respond to the incident.
It's incredible. What hardware did you have down there? You mentioned the different sensors. So what was the actual hardware that was with?
Sure. Well, you're looking at it right here, and it's this. But the magic is this when you combine it with the 5G capabilities, because you have to, if you think back in maybe you're too young for this, but we used to watch movies online. We used to watch movies online, and when you're watching a movie online, go have a coffee and a cigarette between scenes because the capacity of the network wasn't enough. And now we stream on our phones in the subway and we watch Mission Impossible 7 or something. So the 5G environment, this solution is not compatible with a Wi-Fi. Or even a 4G is doable, but 5G is the answer. So you combine the sensors on here, which is thermal, gas sensing, HD, as well as the LiDAR for 3D mapping. All of that rides in this little unit. And you can see on the back, maybe you can't see, but there's also back here a first aid kit, and we strap water on it so that when we deploy this, we can actually find a missing worker from surface, deploy this unit to him, you get water and some first aid material while responders are trying to get to him or her underground. So go ahead, sorry.
So that unit goes down. So how, I just wanted to clarify, what is the hardware being used to locate the miners, and then that is getting sent down once they're located?
No, this is locating the miners.
That's going and searching.
Right. So in the simulation we did, the incident commander is in the boardroom at Norcat. And this unit actually left the boardroom and drove into the mine and started looking for people.
Yeah.
And taking readings.
It has the camera. It's got the infrared imaging.
Right.
It's got all the tools in there depending on the environment to visualize.
Right. And so each of those tools broadcasts to a centralized tablet or screen. And so you're getting concurrent readings on things. So you can take a look at a tire of a vehicle that might be on fire and say, once that tire gets to 90C, you cannot approach it. And the real cool part of a lot of this was the right now a group of responders, they go in groups of 5. We created a 6th responder with the 5G solution. That 6th responder was virtually there with the deep tracks. So what happened was, as the responders were recovering a worker, the incident commander who was running the deep tracks was saying the tire pressure is now 75 degrees C. The tire pressure is now 85 degrees C. You guys better move because once it's at 90, you cannot approach this. So they have.
You're going to get this in a movie.
Yeah, it'd be cool. It'd be cool. Yeah,
for sure.
Somebody call Tom Cruise. But yeah, so I think. Yeah, exactly. So I think that while the solution itself is as Paul mentioned, kind of a collection of understanding rescue and understanding the technology, the magic is this ability now to stream the data in real time and in high volume. Like the data, we're controlling the vehicle as well. It's not just collecting data; you're actually controlling the unit from the surface with 5G. So it needs to be highly responsive because you don't want to notice there's a wall a millisecond after you reach the wall. It kind of defeats the purpose. So once you pull those things together, well, now there is no limit. And just to, if you extrapolate this just a tiny little bit, well, you don't need to have an emergency to leverage this value. If you add 5G and that scanner, you could actually survey areas of the mine from surface. You don't have to send survey. If there's a fall of ground or if there is a movement that you want to monitor, you don't have to send anybody down there.
Yeah.
You just drive this thing from surface and get the data.
That's the beauty, is this is a tool you can use every day of the year.
Absolutely.
But when needed, it can be, it's very special purpose for
Absolutely.
rescue.
Yeah, 100%.
But throughout the year, you can be using it for any kind of visualization. Maybe you've got drifts that have been closed for 10, 15, 20 plus years, and you need to do an inspection. You can send this there.
Absolutely.
Rather than an employee down there into what might not be a very safe environment.
Agreed. And I think that the beauty of that is that you have a solution that has both a safety, a life-saving capability, while at the same time a day-to-day operational payback. The value, if folks out there could sort of imagine, in today's world, if you survey, you don't get the survey data till the surveyors come up in the cage at 3 o'clock at the end of the day. Then they got to export and upload. So planners and engineers aren't getting that data till the next day. With this solution, they get the data about 5 seconds after the scan is done. So now planners have a scan from 9 o'clock in the morning at 9:30, and they can plan the next set of blasts or shift immediately. So we've saved 24 hours, 14 hours of delay time in the mining cycle, and that translates to tons per day and grams per ton, no question. So you can make an investment in 5G and a small investment in safety technology and have an immediate return on operational metrics that make a difference to your bottom line.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really just educating on the thinking of the approach, because even like when you're telling to me, I was like, okay, there was a sensor that it's like attached to the people. Like just you just sort of have to educate and actually walk people through it.
Right.
I was going to, Paul, Mike made a comment that like 4G was okay, but 5G that's what's needed to really bring this home. Why is that?
It comes down to a couple things. One is capacity, and the other is latency. So that capacity is, how many cars can you have on the highway beside each other 100%. At the same time? And then latency is how fast are you going, right? Mm-hmm. So you can have this really wide highway, but you're all going 5 kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
That's bad.
Toronto.
5G, right? Yeah, exactly.
It's
every
the
day.
DVP.
What you want is a highway that's really wide, so you can move a lot of cars or data, and you want low latency. You want all the cars to be able to go, that 100 kilometers an hour, mm-hmm. or you might want to prioritize some of those cars on that highway. That's really what 5G brings you. 100%. In this particular use case, we can 100%. Say, hey, this is now mine rescue. This is going to take priority. So it has a special lane.
Yeah.
It will always go the speed that it needs to go. Yeah. And we can have as many lanes of data coming down at the same time. That's the difference between 4 and 5G. 4G networks are great, and they're very robust. But they have a few missing things around capacity in this latency that we can really control, which is why we did Norcat in the first place, to prove out that there are some industrial applications for it.
Absolutely, and I think that for us as innovators, having the 5G capacity busts open a whole new set of innovative applications that we can apply. Right?
It kind of gets rid of a wall that.
Right. So
one thing's always true in networks is. Always need more bandwidth, right? Like in my entire career, if you build bandwidth, people like Mike will come and saturate
we'll eat it up. We'll eat it up.
And so, it's just a never-ending story. And so 5G is just that next evolution where we're enabling a use case that 5 years ago couldn't have been done.
100%. I think that, like if you ever have a dream of flying a drone from surface underground to do work, you ain't doing it without 5G. Because the latency, even if the latency is small, it means a pilot is operating a second behind the physical location, which means, you can hit something pretty easy.
Now you're in the wall.
Exactly. And it's like, I'd have turned if I'd have known the wall was there a minute ago or a second ago. So I think it really does open a door. It's a stepping stone to a whole new set of innovation and a whole new way to collect critical data. And it really all comes down to the data you're moving around and how it's immediately can be applied to the situation, whether it's an emergency or a regular operation. So, we're pretty excited about this from the perspective of it. And if people are still having trouble visualizing, we also have the full 38-minute video on YouTube.
Oh, you do?
That,
okay.
We can share with folks. Sure.
Yeah.
And if they got 38 minutes, so they want to, see the excitement.
It's like a little TV episode
unto
itself.
It is. Yeah.
Because like you're on your seat of your your seat there, just going, are they going to find the next miner?
Yes. And I think that in there's a little surprise for everybody with respect to the evacuation phase of the simulation that we did. In that. We had the miners, we had the responders who did not know what kind of they were walking into. We had them evacuate a 5'6", 275-pound miner who was I can't move, I need to be rescued. They evacuated that person in 5 minutes and 25 seconds with our new power wheel. That was part of which we hope to 5G integrate in the future, so that when that rescue basket is being moved on a power wheel, the surface knows exactly where that rescue basket is in the mine, how close they are to the medical services, etc. Traditional carry out in the same situation would have taken 45 minutes.
That power wheel it's one of those things you look at and go, I wish I had a thought. Like, obviously,
it is
that's
amazing.
How you do it.
Yeah. So
of course you should strap a wheel that's powered.
Why not?
Of course you should.
Yeah.
It's another example of you have to know the mine rescue business.
Exactly.
Combine it with another piece of technology that was already out there, but only your team could have done it.
But I think that's another. How did somebody not see somebody on a unicycle?
Well, right, but there are wheels out there. There are wheels out there, but basically no one said, well, what if we powered the thing and gave the and so it changes the game.
One, if you put four could get stuck on the rocks on the surface.
Absolutely.
One is actually the optimum amount.
And people have asked us, why didn't you do two? And it's like, well, because when you talk to the subject matter experts, they're saying, God, don't do two. Please don't do two. One is enough. It's really like if you say to somebody, I know you're bleeding out. It's going to take me 45 minutes or 5 minutes. Which would you like me to choose? It's a no-brainer, right? So, I think I say that only because it's a little bit of an Easter egg inside the simulation that people can watch for, especially if you're a responder and you're a mine rescue aficionado kind of a thing. But I think that it is very much like I do some of the narration because it's actually the simulation recording to help people understand what's happening. But I think it really is a demonstration of the potential of collaboration and the power of integrating this kind of 5G potential into pretty much any technology that's underground. It really is the game changer that I think will allow for much more step change in the industry.
I wanted to ask Paul a quick question, and I've got another just little section I wanted to cover here. But Paul, just a quick question on the system itself underground. Now, if one part of it goes down, how is it set up for the system in case of a fire in one area? Does that affect the rest? I just don't know how it's all connected. How is that set up in case of emergency?
It's a great question. You really want to engineer these wireless networks with all the redundancy you can. So we build these networks, we would call them mission critical. So the components, the brain is definitely duplicated. And then you're going to want to have multiple radios and multiple paths for those radios to communicate back. So you're always ready for the unexpected. There has to be a second way out. I mean, it's how they design a mine anyway. You wouldn't design a mine with one way in. So similarly, when you design a wireless network, you design it with multiple ways and multiple paths, multiple radios, so that if any component fails, which they will, through either incidents or water, whatever can happen in that environment, there's always another one there to pick up the slack, so that you're ready for when something like this has to happen.
And we've built similar redundancy into the unit itself. If the 5G is not available, it'll operate Wi-Fi. If Wi-Fi is not available, you can operate it with RF. So there's always a way for the responder. It just means that there's less safety to the responder.
Right. And in fact, all components of this solution plus our solution are right on the mine site. They're not somewhere in the
Right,
cloud. That
right.
that's sort of the fundamental principle
Yeah,
here.
exactly.
Even the Dell that was doing the edge
Processing.
computing and the processing to take that LiDAR data and give you that image in near real time.
Right.
That's all there on site.
Absolutely.
So you're not dependent on anything outside of the mine operations in order to run this
Yeah, it's a
solution.
great
Well,
point.
that was something, Paul, when I went out there with you, and I realized we did the first opening by the tower, and I went, oh, this is here. Like, this is set up here. This isn't some tower that's 10 kilometers away. That's the difference. It's actually set up at the site.
Purpose built for that particular site,
Yeah.
components on site
Yeah.
to give you that mission critical reliability.
Mike, just to wrap up here, where and Paul, of course, jump in on it, but what's next? What's next steps for Safesight in safety? You've been on our show a few times. I see you out there. I see the company, getting out online, and I'm sure there's a ton of work being done on design and all the technology that you're pumping in.
Right.
But where is what are the next steps for you in adoption, full adoption from the industry?
Sure. Well, I think that, in this particular, so we have sort of 4 key verticals in the industry, as I mentioned at the top of the show, kind of a thing. And in every one of those verticals, we're looking at how can we leverage 5G to make them even more potent than they are today. So that's part of what's in our future. What we're really focusing on right now, though, is that really trying to provide dedicated digital transformation focused to the mine rescue and emergency response space, both nationally and globally. And I think that for us, our continued collaboration with Rogers and their partners to sort of continue to up the ante, and the payback of an investment in this kind of technology is really at the forefront of what we're doing. What I really want to do, and my challenge to anybody watching this, so if they stayed to watch the whole episode, they get something special, right? Instead of don't just turn me off after 2 minutes. What we're looking for collaboratively are 3 sites to set up as centers of excellence, demonstration sites for this whole safety 5G environment. So we want to find partners out there that we can activate this solution. They get an immediate uplift in their ability to respond to emergencies safely, which I'm sure will affect their insurance premium. They get immediate capability to transform the way they do survey from underground to create that immediate return of mapping and survey data to surface in real time. And what we get is the ability to point to a location that has this 5G evolved environment so that people around the world can use them as a center of reference and a demonstration of the possible in mining. So we'll be keep an eye on our website and our various social media channels, because we'll be reaching out and looking for organizations that are leading thinkers and innovation embracing to set these sites up and continue to help us evolve and expand on the potential of both mine rescue digital solutions, as well as expand the return and the power of 5G.
Well, I'm certainly going to have some conversation and talking points for some of the operators we have on, and we've got some coming up on in the next few months, so you might be getting a reference from me.
We'd love it. We'd love it. Bring it.
Perfect.
There are some questions that I have specifically for the operators. And Paul, just quickly from you, what with 5G, how in the mining world, how far is it from sort of becoming a standard? Will it become a standard? How do you sort of see 5G playing out in the mining world, specifically for Canada?
Absolutely, it will become the standard.
I agree.
There's lots of 4G out there today because it's the current generation. The ROI is well understood for some mining applications like autonomous haulage and things like that. But as the technology matures, we're into its 4th or 5th year now. So sometime between now and its 10th year of being in the market, the cost profile will change.
Yeah.
And you'll see it just become the default within the environment. There'll be a lot more devices available it. We'll get the power levels way down, so your battery lasts longer. Like there's a whole pile of things that are going to happen. So it's one of these things that I always tell clients, it's just going to sneak up on you. There's not going to be a day where suddenly every mine just buys 5G. It's just going to sneak up on us. And remember, you know, you can't see 5G. What you see is this. This is what 5G enables. You see the applications. 5G in itself I think behind the scenes.
You said something really insightful the other day, I think, where you kind of, like, for me anyway, mapped out the current behavior and evolution in the industry. We said, you know, Mike, well, people started off and they thought, well, let's see what Wi-Fi can do. And then it's okay, well, Wi-Fi, it's not too bad. Let's go to 4G. But while this is happening, they're continuing to adopt and consume technology that's chewing up bandwidth and requiring more and more responsiveness and less latency. So I think you're perfectly right in that people are going to continue to put all these Porsches on the highway and then realize we got a dirt road. And so to say, wow, what do we do? And the answer is 5G, I think.
Build that highway.
Exactly. It is a key thing is that if you build that, then people will, the whole build that they will come is if you provide that environment, then it lays the ground for the innovation. Like even like us, we're doing this remotely.
It's exactly what happens. If we hadn't built the Norcat facility, if we hadn't enabled it with 5G, we could have just done 4G, but we put the limits. Then we reached out. I mean, we had a number of great companies come in with ideas. We ultimately chose Safesight. But it's you need both, right? You need people that know the industry. You need some unique innovation in technology that's happening at the same time. Mix the two together, and that's what you get.
Yeah, I agree. I think what we're looking for is companies that can see the future in terms of moving this forward. But we're also there for the companies who are going to wait until it hurts, and then they're going to say, "I got 17 of these trucks." And if you could imagine having one of these little units at every level, so that in any time you want to do a scan from surface, you just wake the thing up and tell it to go do a scan. Or if there's an emergency, hey, go figure out what's going on. Well, now you got 25 of these things all over the mine, more and more utility on your network. You're going to have to move to this kind of an infrastructure.
Do you know the other thing that you could use that unit for is going into things like high schools, and because we're talking about trying to get people into the mining world. Just take that and show scanning and show the video and that, and you'll recruit some people.
I was more thinking chemical plants and other places that are dangerous.
Exactly.
But, high schools, that's a good one.
No, I'm saying because I've been talking about it quite a bit lately is that there's this recruitment problem in mining, and people don't realize some of the options and the technology that's getting pumped in. What I'm saying is that would just be an amazing showcase to go, this is mining. This is what you can be a part
100%.
of.
100%. I think that we're redefining what it means to participate. And I think that's what really needs to be out there in the industry. And we're doing lots of collaboration with the colleges and universities in the north. Obviously, it's our sort of home turf to really wake them up to the fact that, drones and droids. And we have a new project that might be coming online in the next 8 months that has a Star Wars feel to it that I'm really excited about, which hopefully we'll have for, next year's show. You mean
there'll be a Millennium Falcon behind me here?
There might be. There might be an R2-D2 in our future. Just saying. See, it's always great to watch the whole bloody video because you get all the inside. You get the inside stuff. It's like you need to put at the front. There are Easter eggs at the end. Stay tuned.
That's true. I need to get better at that. Again, though, I'm a country boy. I just go down the middle and see what happens. Gentlemen, it's been great to talk to you. I'm sorry I wasn't there in person this year, but I actually felt like it was kind of like we're just chatting.
It was good.
It was great
I think
to talk to you.
I think so. Yeah.
And I know we're going to do it again. It just gets
absolutely.
One thing people don't realize is some people only do one episode with us. You can't. It's like talking to someone once. You can't become best friends that way. The more you talk, you just find these little nuance in the conversation, and you just learn more and more. So, thank you so much for taking the time, and I hope the rest of the show is great for you.
All right, pleasure to be here. All the best.
Bye-bye.
Ciao. Bye.
And thank you everybody for watching. We'll have links. We're going to have links to the Rogers episode, to the Safesight episode. We've done lots of work together, and hopefully it's just getting started. We wouldn't be doing any work if you weren't watching. So thank you very much for the support. Please keep suggesting guests. We're just rounding out the industry more and more innovation is coming. So you get more and more opportunity to feature new types of companies. So thank you, everybody. We will see you on the next episode of Mining Now.